Hey guys, it's Ricky Rojas. Thank you for listening to On Living Life at It's Ichiban on Twitter or through Ricardo Rojas on Facebook.
Hi, I'm Gregory Sperry. You can find me anywhere at Gregory_Sperry.
Hey, I'm Scott Egan. You can find me on Twitter at SCEAGAN or on Instagram at Scott.Egan.
Thank you guys for listening. We hope you enjoy. Alright, so I guess we're going to start with a quick introduction of our political background. I think I'm what you'd normally refer to as a neoliberal, even though I don't know if that word properly defines me. I just learned it as of 30 seconds ago. But I think I'm more of a Biden than a Bernie guy. I'm for capitalism, but I'm pretty socially left leaning. I got involved a lot with politics because I was taught a lot of things growing up, and I just wanted to see like how they made sense in the world. A lot of my politics derive from my moral philosophy. It's like probably my most core ideal comes from my moral philosophy, and so that's how I determine what's right and wrong and how I input that into politics, I guess. Yeah, if Greg, you want to go?
Yeah, so I got involved with politics my freshman year of high school because I stumbled upon a US government simulation on Reddit, and I just dove into it, and I learned a lot, and I've really changed my political philosophy over the years. I started out like as a pretty raging libertarian actually, and now I would say I'm a social democrat.
Alrighty, well, I started my political ideology back in sixth grade. I have a very conservative father, and I disagreed with him on practically everything. So, for about 3 years,
Wait, really? I don't believe that. Okay,
I
sorry,
was pretty
continue.
far to the left. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I
I
didn't know that.
at least socially, I didn't really care about economics back then, and I probably got red pilled in eighth grade, seventh or eighth grade, and then uh, beyond that, I've continued on that path and only gotten more conservative, and I would probably attribute that to I put a lot of my moral principles into my politics. Uh, I'm a-religious, so I really don't like religious conservatives, so I think I'm a good mix of this young, non climate change denying conservative movement.
I don't think any of us are. I assume Greg isn't religious. I'm not religious either.
No,
Yeah,
no.
so this is a pretty religion-free podcast, probably. What I think, would you guys agree with the claim that like I know this is separate. We're already going off topic, but do you think you'd agree with the claim that like the that religion is like probably the biggest threat to our society, or like one of the biggest threats, at least to modern society, or no, like
God,
theology in general, I guess.
it's a hard question to answer. I think religion has done just too many good things to say that it's destructive, but at the same time, it is a pretty regressive ideology. So you're
If
not
you
going to see much progress in society through a religious aspect.
if you add the word radical to that statement, then I completely agree.
Yeah, that's true. I would probably add the word radical. I think
Okay.
that statement would be more correct.
Yeah. Then in that case, yeah.
Yeah. I guess getting on to today's topic, our exact prompt is how much of a role should morality play in who you vote for? The elections are upcoming, everyone knows. Biden seems to be the Democratic nominee. I don't think anything, unless for some reason he gets booted for this new Charlemagne ship, but I don't think that's ever happening realistically. So this looks like a two-horse race. And I guess we're here to discuss the morality of voting for Joe Biden and then also putting that into perspective versus his opponent. So yeah, I guess we can just dive in. Greg, I'm gonna let you start. I think you probably have the most radical, quote unquote, view on this.
Right. So I am not going to vote for Joe Biden unless I get significant policy concessions as a progressive. So I have no interest in being told that, oh, I have to vote for this guy because it's just better than the other guy. Because I think long term, voting for the lesser of two evils is how we got in a situation where somebody like Trump was able to take the White House in the first place.
Okay.
I actually think that's really interesting. That's a really cool way to think about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess so. I think my position on it is that I definitely think I'm a lesser of two evils person. My moral philosophy has a lot of similarities to like classic utilitarianism, and it is different for the record. But I think that this is a scenario where the lesser of two evils just seems like the only viable choice for me. I think one of the big concerns, right, is that you hear a lot on social media now, especially within like our generation, the younger generations. I'm a boomer, but you guys, right?
Yeah.
I'm about to hit 20. I am way too old to be doing this shit.
Hmm.
I think the big concern is I don't want to vote for a rapist, right? Which is a fair point, certainly. Obviously, the concern I would have for it would be like this would be a strictly lesser of two evils thing. Like, we could probably I think we could fairly make the statement that like Trump has probably raped more women than Joe Biden, if Joe Biden has raped a woman, right? And
Obviously, I would disagree with that. Yeah.
yeah, I guess we didn't talk about that. Probably should have talked about like whether or not we agree with that as a consensus statement. But I think we could agree that Joe Biden is a less crude person than Donald Trump, right? Would you agree with
Yeah,
that? Like he has like
yeah. I mean, he's just civility incarnate.
yeah.
That is true.
So where my position is that I think it's too important for certain groups of people for us to not vote for Joe Biden. So I think for the people who are being ostracized right now, so you look at the detention camps or whatever you want to call them, right? The illegal immigrants who are sitting at the border, which I do agree that like I don't think Joe Biden's policy on that is great, and I think his political history on that is pretty shaky. So that's one I'd be willing to kind of let loose. That I don't know if he's actually going to do anything about that. He might continue the current policies that we have. But if you look at social change, if you look at treatment towards blacks, you look at the war on drugs, you look at I don't know, trans rights, LGBTQ rights in general, things like that. It feels too important to put progressive ideology in front of voting for Joe Biden.
I will definitely contest you on the war on drugs. I mean, Joe Biden authored the crime bill that absolutely decimated one African American communities, and two, just in general, really stepped up the war on drugs.
Wouldn't you say that his current I believe, at least from my understanding, that his current policies are much looser than like what he's historically voted for, right?
Well, I mean, that's what he says
Because
his
that what
policies are.
right. That's what makes him electable. Yeah.
Um, I don't know. That's like I guess like I haven't probably done enough research to be like knowledgeable in this, but it feels like anything has to be better than the current, right? Or do you think that you literally think that it'll be just as bad?
I don't think it's going to be just as bad, but I do not think that it is better enough for me to sacrifice the long-term health of the progressive movement. And I think that after this primary cycle, Joe Biden winning the nomination would be a really, really hard blow to the progressive movement.
I think that a Biden win would just be to some degree a return to tradition for the Democratic Party. And I think it would be refreshing for moderates to see someone like Joe Biden instead of a Bernie Sanders or I don't think it's
I
fair
mean,
to say that Hillary Clinton was
yeah,
radical,
but
but
we
I think
just
that
had Obama, right? I feel like I don't even know if it's a return. I feel like it's. I mean, maybe it is, I guess, but I don't know if Biden was ever, or if Bernie was ever like the front runner. I don't think he ever realistically
he
was.
won the first three primaries. He
Yeah,
was
he was the
absolutely the
front runner.
front runner.
Yeah, but you like those weren't those like states that we like assumed were probably always going to Bernie? Like
No,
No,
absolutely
I
not.
thought
no.
my
So,
understanding was that original polling data showed that like Joe Biden, like Super Tuesday was Joe Biden day. Like that's where we would see Joe Biden. It did look
no,
shaky for a while though.
Joe
Yeah.
Biden was out of the race until South Carolina, and so South Carolina like really put a lot of energy back into his campaign. And then we had, the day before Super Tuesday, a lot of progressives call it Bloody Monday, where Obama made a phone call to Pete Buttigieg. That's pretty much been reported on and confirmed. And I would
Yeah.
imagine to some of the other centrists and told them, you need to drop out and throw your support behind Joe. And that's what happened. And then Super Tuesday was obviously just a disaster for Bernie Sanders supporters.
Yeah, that's
Like Bernie
true.
was not supposed to win Iowa, and then he won it in a landslide. So to say that Bernie Sanders was never the front runner is just it's nonsense.
Okay.
And this was another election stolen from Bernie. As
Peppa
annoying as it
hands.
is to keep saying that.
Yeah.
It's absolutely the case.
So I guess Greg, do you still hold out hope for Bernie, or do you what does your heart tell you? Do you think this is done deal? Is this like a
No, this
Are we
is done.
storming the DNC stage?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I think the only thing that could happen is that if Joe Biden like physically cannot make it to nomination day, then the Democrats are going to put somebody else in. They're not going to give it to Bernie. They don't have to give it to Bernie. There's nothing in their bylaws that says they have to give it to
for
Bernie.
sure.
They're going to give it to Andrew Cuomo or somebody else that the talking heads think is electable and can beat Trump, and they'll get massacred in a landslide, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think? Who do you think from here on out? Since, in my opinion, and I might be wrong, I don't think Bernie's going to run again in 24. He's been abused too many times, and he'll be relatively, or not relatively. He'll be too old by then.
Yeah, he'll be 84 at that point.
He's fucking
So who do you
ancient,
think your candidate will be in 24? Do you see any prospects? Do you like this new AOC style of conservatism? Sorry, liberalism. Sorry.
I have some strong opinions on AOC, but I'll let Greg go first.
I don't know. To be honest, it's kind of scary to say this, but I do not see a standard bearer for progressives just yet.
Isn't AOC perfect for you, Greg? She's econ
major
from
No, she is such an econ... Dude, oh, man, oh, my God, I am getting red-pilled. But I think, personally, AOC is just, like, economically, like, illiterate. It frustrates me. It triggers me to no end. I don't know.
I like AOC on some things, but
yeah, absolutely. I do like her.
I don't think that I can. I don't think I like her enough at this point to say that she is the standard bearer of the progressives yet.
even when the president of the DNC says that the AOC is the face of the new party.
Yeah, I'm not going to be too concerned with what the establishment.
Wait, Greg. I know who Greg. Your standard bearer can be Joshua. It can be Joshua for Congress.
I'm sorry, who?
Dude, oh my God, you guys haven't heard about this. So there was a guy who, he ran on on a platform of like, I'm a truck driver. I have, I want to say he has Asperger's, but that was like his platform. And then he got into a couple of internet debates with a couple of individuals, and he basically felt so bad that he deleted his Twitter. And he raised, I think, like 40,000 or some like pretty high amount for. Let me look this up actually. But he raised an insane amount of money.
His Twitter's up right now. It says he's the CEO of socialism, so that's a good start. That's a good start.
Wait, is Twitter's up again? I could have sworn he deleted it. Oh,
no, it's up. It's definitely up.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I haven't tuned into this story in like a couple of days, so.
All right. I'm gonna follow this guy.
Oh no. Yeah, this guy. Wait, is his Twitter up? Am I crazy?
Yeah,
I can't believe we're doing.
Yeah, Joshua for Essential Workers is his name right now, but the ad is Joshua for Congress.
What's he running for?
For the House in Washington, I want to say.
Okay.
This ad's Joshua for Congress? Did he block me? Maybe he blocked me. I don't know. Maybe that's... I don't know, dude. Maybe I commented something too edgy on his post.
Yeah, you jumped in on the dog pile.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, regardless, yeah, this was a Rose Caucus, I think was the name of his political group or whatever. It was a pretty, like a super progressive movement. He got into a Twitter fight or like a debate with Destiny, where Destiny just made fun of him a bunch. And then he didn't have a Twitter at least. He took down his Twitter.
Okay.
Which was interesting. I saw it unfold in real time, and it was a spectacle for sure. But I did feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, he has some pretty solid endorsements among the pretty far left crowd, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that the big criticism that, like, I know specifically Destiny. I'm a big Destiny watcher. I'll say that now, okay? I know specifically some of the criticisms he had was that he didn't like he wasn't solid enough on his talking points. He thought he would just be like an awful politician in general. But I don't know. I think that I derive a lot of my politics from moral philosophy, as I had said. But I think one way in which I veer very differently from that is that policy matters a lot more to me than like ideology when it comes to politics, if that makes any sense. So like I like a candidate way more when their policy seems more electable to me than when a candidate has like the best ideology, right? So I'd argue like in a perfect world, like Bernie is probably my candidate, but he didn't seem electable enough for me, so that's why like I would have put my hat in the ring for Joe Biden if it came down to it. Or Elizabeth Warren probably would have been my actual choice, but she kind of sputtered and died. So
Why Elizabeth Warren?
um
She just tried to copy Bernie.
yeah,
She had the
she's
choice going into Bernie's lane or Biden's lane, and
yeah.
she chose Bernie's lane when Bernie already has the cult following.
She was just Bernie that like that was a capitalist. I don't know. That's like
No,
what
but
I
she
want.
wasn't a capitalist. She said, you know, Medicare for all and all these things, and then they asked her to back up her points, and she said, you know, go read my party platform. Like,
But I don't
Also,
think
she just flipped on Medicare for all, so
yeah.
nice.
yep.
But I don't think that how do I say like I don't think that that policy alone made her like a socialist. I think that Medicare for all is a pretty. I think I would be in favor of Medicare for all for what it's worth. I just think like at a principle, I probably align with Joe Biden more, and I do think he's more electable right now in how like the landscape of America. I think that younger generations just aren't voting enough, or they're just not ready enough to vote. Like the 16, 17s, right, that you see on Twitter all the time. It's possible that like the next election cycle, a more progressive candidate will be more viable, but at least that was my opinion.
I mean, young kids don't vote. We know this.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, they just don't, obviously. Yeah. You have to be pretty involved, I think, to actually go out and vote, which is
Yeah,
frustrating.
absolutely. So, Greg, what do you think about what Ricky said about Joe Biden's electability? Do you think that matters in a candidate, or
So, I mean, you obviously need to have a candidate that is electable. However, I think that electability, as it's been defined in this election, is completely off the mark.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that's
I
fair.
think electability was like a construct that the left, or not even left wing, I would say like the establishment media created to promote Joe Biden, and Democratic voters just bought it, and now we have this candidate that I do not think can beat Donald Trump.
well, I don't think that it's something that they created. My mom, for example, is she doesn't talk about politics ever, but she's a registered Democrat. She's pretty much always voted blue. Is what I think. She doesn't really talk about the politics, but she looks at candidates like Joe Biden or sorry, Bernie Sanders or AOC, and she turns her nose up at them because she goes, these people are crazy and radical, and I can't vote for somebody like that as somebody who is a moderate. So I
Yes.
think that I
Sorry.
hear a lot from her that people like Joe Biden are really attractive, especially in the face of someone like Donald Trump, who's pretty much a firecracker on the other side. So I think that electability actually, I don't think you're giving it enough credit for what it's worth.
And I would also argue that like if you look at Donald Trump, like that guy, I feel like that guy's his whole presidency is just electability, right? Like if you look at what he was saying during like the primaries and stuff, the year he got elected in 16, I feel like that was just a candidate that like he made sense, right? To the like American people, which is like typically you're looking at like I don't know how I put this lightly, right? But like the type of workers, these workers who are like low class who want to believe that they're middle class workers, right? Who is like seem to make up a lot of the voting base for Donald Trump. I feel like he was just the face. Like it made sense. My problem was that I don't think Joe Biden is the face, but I think Bernie was like much farther off than Joe Biden was. I just couldn't see older Democrats like ever voting for Bernie, not because of his actual policy, but because of what his perceived policy was.
Well,
No,
what do
that's a good point. Because
what do
when you go policy by policy, quote unquote socialist ideas are really popular. Like Medicare for
Yep,
all in
absolutely.
exit polls won every exit poll.
Yeah, like I think there was a really really interesting article I read where it was talking about the phrasing of Medicare for all was like a big determination in how it did in polls, right? So I think one of the polls was like, would you be in favor of removing private, right? Do you know what study I'm talking about? Would you be in favor of removing private Medicare or like private insurance or whatever? I don't know the exact term for it, but
Yeah, I think I remember what you're saying, but there's
yeah,
definitely right wing ways that you can ask the Medicare for all question that will get people to tell the result that will tell the result that you want them to, but that
yeah.
doesn't necessarily indicate what it is if you look at it a fair way to ask the question.
When you say fair, you mean everybody gets free Medicare at the expense of the taxpayer? Like Medicare for all is just just such a objectionable, like just bad thing in my opinion. I see little to no good that comes of it.
I think this would be something that's interesting to talk about. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
like you to
let's
talk
do an
about this.
episode on Medicare for all. Actually, I feel
Okay.
like that's or on just like socialized medicine in general, because I don't think we want to get too off topic from
Yeah.
how much of a role should morality play and who you
Okay,
vote
okay, okay.
for. And if we talk about socialized medicine, I mean, we'll be here all night.
We're gonna go off the rails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess getting back to the direct question, this is specifically referencing, right? This is really just referencing the big voter base, the big player base. I like to say player. I don't know why, but the big section of people who seem to think that they can't vote for Joe Biden because he seems to be kind of a shitty person. Like that's like fair, right? I think this is a pretty fair assessment. I think a lot of people, like even a lot of Republicans, would also make the same argument for Donald Trump, right? Like he seems to be he seems to not be like a nice person, right? But these candidates still keep getting voted for. They still keep getting elected. So does this mean that morality just like it doesn't matter right now to today's voter, or what do you think that means in general for the American landscape?
I don't think it does. I feel like, especially uh, with it's both sides really. Like both sides are willing to just like plug their noses and vote for their guy because they're so scared of the other person. I mean, I read an article the other day, and the opening line was, "I would still vote for Biden if he boiled babies and ate them."
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like a clear picture, right? Of morality doesn't matter.
Yeah.
A person's action doesn't matter. It feels like the president, I think, for a long time was like a member of the royal family, but it feels like now he's just a minister. I don't know if you understand what I'm talking about when I say that, but it feels like his actions matter, like his personal life and his personal actions and what he personally believes, like in a moral way, what he believes is right, doesn't actually matter anymore so much as his policies do, which is a really interesting culture shift, I think.
We've put so much focus and so much power into the executive branch too, and giving them executive powers
Yeah.
so they can sign these executive orders that are just really bad for our checks and balances and our government as a whole. Um, so a lot more power has been given to the presidency, and I think that's why a lot more of what the president does and what the president says matters to people because it's more indicative of actual public policy that's going to go into effect. Um, as for as for Donald Trump and all his tweeting and shenanigans and stuff, I wouldn't say that it makes him a bad person per se, and I wouldn't say that anything that Joe Biden has said so far has made him a bad person. I certainly they're both playing a game and they're both trying to win, and so I think that it's not really indicative of who they are as people, rather the political game that they're playing.
I think maybe this is something that I would disagree and Greg would also disagree because I think at their core, like I think they're probably bad people. Like, I think I would almost consider it inarguable to me that they are both bad people at the core. That's at
I
least
think
that's the
if you're going to say
perception of
they're
them.
bad people, I think you also have to just say that anyone who goes into politics is a bad person. You
I
don't
would
go
argue
into
that
politics.
most people are probably bad. Most people who go into politics are probably bad people. Not all of them, but
Okay, see, I wouldn't say that anybody is a bad person for going into any specific thing. I think that maybe when you look at a political candidate, you see things that aren't desirable in a normal person, but you have to realize that a politician isn't a normal person. It's a manufactured persona.
I think for me, almost the second that you start taking money and I see it influencing your positions, you are dead to me morally. Because at that point, I think you are completely bankrupt and you have no principles and you are just in this
Wait,
because you like
really?
power.
That seems like
Greg,
listen.
you
Yeah,
can never support a politician ever. Then
that seems like a really extreme idea. I think that seems pretty extreme, right? Like, it feels like how do you ever get things passed? Like how? It just you just don't, right?
I mean, Bernie Sanders did not take big money. He took small dollar donations and he really had a
Yeah.
run at it.
Yeah, but there's infinite examples. I know for a fact that I could Google it, and there's a lot of examples where he had to give up part of his bills, or he had to like add on articles to whatever he was writing so that he could get legislation passed. Right? Like
No,
that was
that's
like strictly
okay. You
Republican.
you you can change what you propose in a bill because you want to give the bill a greater chance of passing. But if you're doing that because somebody is, donating money to your campaign to take out this part of this bill that negatively impacts their industry, that's when I say that you are morally bankrupt.
I think that claim is like, to me at least, it feels a little conspiratorial. Maybe not. I'm sure there's some truth to what you're saying. I think I would agree that like money does change politics, but it feels like that feels like such a hard line to draw. Because I feel like every candidate does it, right? I don't know any candidate who doesn't. There's no way that
Bernie.
there's no way that Bernie's policies like I don't think that they changed much, but
okay,
there's no way they had like there was like total zero influence by his supporters.
I actually think that I'm on Greg's side on this one because Bernie Sanders has been the same crazy socialist loon bag since the 1960s.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of hard to argue with Bernie because he's such
And the
an
only reason
individual
he's
as a politician.
coming into prominence
Yeah.
now is because his crazy is finally popular with people who don't know what they're talking about. So
Wow.
I'm not saying you,
Wow,
Greg. I'm not saying you, Greg. I'm saying
jeez. My
at
God.
large, these young, 14-year-olds that love and idolize Bernie Sanders. He's very popular with those people.
I don't want this to become like a full out political debate, but it feels like that's I feel like this original question, right? Going back to it one more time, how much of a role should morality play in who you vote for? Was probably incorrectly worded because it feels like it plays a huge role, and I think that's pretty inarguable. Thinking about it more, right? Because
Right.
your morality, I think everyone's morality to some extent, it votes like it influences who they vote for, right? That's why you never or you almost never see anyone with like theological beliefs or anything like that voting for a Democratic candidate because usually those religions, right? Christianity, it I don't know what the other like religions you'd consider big in the United States. Christianity, Islam, Hinduism,
Judah.
even Judaism. Yeah, probably don't coincide with democratic social beliefs for the most part, at least. Sorry if I generalize anyone that shouldn't be there, but that's why you don't see those religious groups voting for Democratic candidates as much, right?
Actually, Jews break for Democrats
Yeah.
overwhelmingly.
Yeah.
It's
It's possible. I
yeah.
didn't.
So
Yeah,
I
I'm
would
gonna blame Scott on that
I would
one. He
not
said it,
include
not
them.
me. I'm gonna blame him.
Yeah.
Jesus, Scott. Bringing up the cookies already. I hate that guy, Nick Fuentes. I hate him.
Yeah.
Are you a Nick Fuentes fan, Scott?
No, there's nothing good about
Good.
that guy.
Thank God. Finally found
That
something we
guy's
agree on,
just
guys.
well, that guy is just scum of the earth,
Yeah,
anti-Semite.
absolutely. Yeah, that guy's.
I,
Yep.
I can't get down with racism.
Nope. Can't get down with Donald Trump though. Who?
But Donald Trump isn't a racist. We can say
Who?
Donald Trump's a racist, but it doesn't mean anything if we have no substance to support it.
Okay. That should be a topic right there. Is Donald Trump
There's
racist?
so many topics. Oh my god.
Yeah, absolutely. We should write a notepad about this.
So I
Yeah.
mean, we could change our original question to how much should strategic voting exist, right? Do you know what I mean when I say strategic voting?
I do, but let's give the audience a refresher because I actually don't. So, give me some
Okay, so when
insight.
I say strategic voting, I mean so it's just purely if you let's consider this election, let's not think about the implications for future elections. If I was a purely strategic voter just thinking about this election, even though I'm very far to the left, I would never vote for the Green Party or any other third party because they don't have any chance of winning. And if by voting for them, I am potentially throwing the election to whichever candidate I disagree with more. So in this case, strategic voting says that I should vote for Joe Biden.
Oh, yeah. I guess in that case, your question would stand. How big of a role should strategic voting play? I think I wouldn't be a
But Greg,
great.
isn't what you're doing strategic voting as well?
Yes, it's strategic voting, but on a longer time scale.
Okay, does strategic voting define a time period?
No, no. For the purposes of that question, I was just making an argument for like just if you consider this election what strategic voting would be. I
Right.
think if you apply it naturally out to like the strategy that I'm talking about, you can make a strategic argument for why you shouldn't vote for Biden.
Okay.
I think I made a mistake with this podcast because I chose two people more intelligent than me, and now I feel like the dumbass. So I need to for the next one we got to bring in a fourth person who's who's less intelligent. At least it's not. I think it would have been three people more intelligent than me if Elijah had showed up. So that's good. So hopefully for the next one. um, yeah. So I guess I wouldn't be a good person to answer this question because I think strategic voting aside, I would probably vote for Biden for other reasons.
Right.
I personally think that Bernie's Medicare for All plan is too extreme. And while I do believe in some sort of Medicare for all, I think his was probably a little bit off the walls. I can't give you specifics if you want me to give you specifics because I literally just am not educated enough. This is just things that I've read. I can't give you sources, unfortunately, which I probably should do. I feel like you probably have some.
How can you say it and make an informed decision without knowing the specifics?
Well, it's not that I let me rephrase that. It's not that I don't think I know the specifics. It's more of like
You
that's
couldn't quote
good,
exact
yeah,
numbers.
yeah. I can't give you exact points that like I disagree with. I just think in general, I think in general his plan is too extreme. I could look it up and give you some like specific pinpoint flaws, but I couldn't do it off the top of my head.
Yeah, let's save that for the Medicare for all.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely, because that seems like it would be something interesting to talk about. But yeah, so strategic voting, how big of a role should it play? I think the problem is that in this day and age, it feels like strategic voting of the type where like you put it on like a short timetable, right? Where you say like it makes sense strategically to vote for Joe Biden because he's like better than the alternative. And this is like what would lead us to like victory in the short term, in the very short term, right?
Right.
For someone like you, it feels like the way the world is progressing, you can't think long term right now. I actually just don't think it's feasible to think long term. I know you disagree, but
Yeah.
it feels
Why not? Why is that not a feasible thing to do?
just look at like coronavirus, right? Look at like how politics have been influenced pretty much overnight, right? Over the course of 2 or 3 months, and how political like UBI is now like the talk of the town, right? This is like a thing that unironically like has a non-zero chance to be implemented, whereas before it was just like Andrew Yang and like 5 people on Twitter, right? So like now that this is something that just popped up out of nowhere, I think it kind of proves the point that you can't think long term in politics because like life is too short. I don't know if that's like too stupid of a thing to say, but maybe it's too normy of a take, but I don't know. It just feels like aiming for the long term when things are so fucked right now. I guess that's how I'd put it. Like things are so fucked right now, right? For you, Greg, I feel like you probably think things are like super like uber screwed right now, right?
I'd say so.
So wouldn't it make sense, right? In that sense that if you wait longer, like there's probably a crossing point that we can just never beat. And I just don't want to hit that crossing point ever.
I don't know. I think you're basing. I think it's your argument is made in faulty logic because this is a black swan event, and so to say that thinking long term is unreasonable or suboptimal, I don't think it's fair.
So
I think that you can't think long term even in the coronavirus age
Yeah.
because I genuinely think that Biden is not that much better than Trump. Like, I'll give you that he's better, but I don't think that he's enough better to justify the compromising of my long-term strategic ideas for the Democratic Party.
So,
Can you explain that, Craig? Like, they have totally opposite public policy opinions and views. So is it the implementation or lack thereof of the progressive policies that you are a fan of? Is that what it is?
Yeah. I can't think of exactly who said this. It is failing me, but the quote is "socialism or barbarism," and that is basically how I feel.
Okay.
That I think that basically we're either doing progressive ideas, we're either implementing things like Medicare for all, UBI, a Green New Deal, things that are going to fundamentally transform the economy, or we're barbarians. There's no middle ground for me.
wait, would you consider UBI a socialist policy?
So, in the context of the American definition of socialism, I would say so.
What about your definition?
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think it is
it's
realistically.
probably not
right? Yeah,
socialism
it's not
as-
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like it feels like socialism is like a surgery, and UBI is like a band-aid. Like that's like the levels of
Yeah.
difference that I would consider. I
Yeah.
don't know.
What? How? Wait. So you're saying it's just because of the scale makes it not
Yes.
socialism?
Yeah, I feel like socialism is like a core principle that you would have. Like if I was a socialist, it would be like I don't know how else to put it, but that's like a belief system. UBI is like a I don't know.
Well, yeah. It's Andrew
It's like
Yang
a very
trying to meet you
it's like a very
halfway
poor man.
and
Yeah, it's
in
like a
the
very
moderate
poor
way.
man's socialism. I don't know.
Yeah, so I feel like the right likes to, say that, whenever the government does something, it's socialism. And so I think I may have adopted a little bit of their framework there, unfortunately. But my personal definition of socialism is the government seizes the means of production and gives it to the workers. And I feel like Scott would probably call that communism, right?
Yes.
Okay, right. Whereas I would say that communism is a stateless, classless, moneyless society.
Okay. So the way I would define it is I would define socialism as any redistribution of wealth, and communism as the government imposed seizing of the powers and giving the means of production back to the workers.
Sure.
Okay, that's interesting. So how did you come to that? Did you come to that just when you were in high school, or after you started studying economics, or?
Well, after 3 Hasana B streams, I now like that.
Yeah, I have read a small amount of left-wing theory, and from that I had deduced socialism to be what I said it was, and communism to be that stateless, classless society sort of thing.
Okay.
So do you have the OG edition of Das Kapital? Never mind. Okay, bad joke. Okay. Anyways, is it like original print or what are we talking?
Yeah,
New Age.
Unsurprisingly, most of that stuff is available as a PDF, so that's what I have.
Damn, you're not. I don't think. Listen, I'm pretty certain it says somewhere that you have to own it in paper for it to be true. So. I don't know if I can accept your policy positions anymore. I'm sorry.
I certainly own a copy of The Road to Serfdom by Friedrich Hayek.
Oh my god.
I actually own a copy of that book too.
Yes, Greg.
Yeah,
That's in the right direction.
God.
Yeah, I read that in high school, and when I was an edgy libertarian kid, and I really liked it. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but when the 2016 election day, my school had a mock election, and I convinced them to put Gary Johnson on the ballot, and I came to school wearing a Gary Johnson shirt, and I had a Gary Johnson sign that I carried around all day.
Oh my
That's
god,
fantastic.
Greg.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fantastic. How many votes did you get? I need to know.
We got Gary Johnson to 10%.
Nice.
Which
That's pretty good.
Much higher than the
Yeah.
national average.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like 10% higher than the national average.
Yeah. No, I literally ran around the lunchroom just like explain to people why they should vote for Gary Johnson. Most of it was legalized weed, which got a lot of votes, admittedly, but
Yeah.
Wait, so who ended up winning that one? Was it like Hillary by like 15 points?
no, it was Trump. Remember, I went to Plant City High School.
That's basically BFE to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. I think that was something really interesting as a kid. I remember in, what, it would have been McCain versus Obama, so '08, right?
Hmm.
Am I
Yep.
crazy? So I remember in the '08 election, my best friend is a kid who lives like 2 blocks away from me or something, and we've known each other our whole lives. I remember we don't talk politics, or we do now because now we align much more. But back then, I was like, I thought like, I was literally brought up to believe that like Obama was the devil, right? Like this is like that's like kind of the rhetoric that I was taught. That's really what drove me into politics because of how awful I saw that rhetoric to be and like how absolutely demeaning it was. And
Hmm.
so like I remember that that year that we had a mock election kind of. We just voted. There wasn't like anything crazy. There wasn't anything at lunch or anything like you
Right.
seem to have had. And so I remember John McCain won by like an insane amount. I went to a private Catholic school. So obviously like voting for Obama would have been like literal grounds for expulsion basically. So I remember talking to him about it. He's like, "Oh, at my school, like Obama won like 70 points by 70 points or something, like 70%." I was like, "What? That doesn't make any sense. Why would people vote for him?" I think it kind of it just shows to believe how many ridiculous things we're taught to believe as children, and how different how our ideologies evolve over time. It's pretty crazy, you know.
One of the things I really like doing is looking back and seeing how I would have voted in prior elections. So obviously I lived through '08 and 2012, and
Yeah.
so I like to think back and see who do you guys think you would have voted for now over between Biden and McCain and then Biden and Romney? It would probably easily be
You mean
both
Obama?
be Obama for you.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah. It would have
I
been Obama.
I think the first Obama term I would have voted for Obama, and then the
Absolutely.
second time he ran, I would have voted for whoever the 2012 Green Party nominee was.
Really? Who was it
Yeah.
then? Was it
Oh,
still
I
Joel Stein?
I think it
I
was
have no
Stein,
idea.
right? Yeah,
I'll
I'm
look it
pretty
up.
sure it was Stein. Yeah, I want to say. Yeah, I definitely would have voted for
Yeah,
Obama
it
the
was still
first
Stein.
term. I probably would
Really?
have
Wow.
voted.
Yeah.
I think Obama's probably. I know Greg's gonna fucking not agree with me at all, but Obama's like a pretty good candidate for me. I dig it. I think that is. I don't know. I can't back that up at all because I have done very little to no research into like what his policy positions were, except for how shit his foreign policy was. Um, so I can't back it up. But overall, he seems like a pretty cool dude. I don't know. He seems like a chill dude. He's pretty funny.
I think Obama for me was like, okay, so I'm gonna give you two grades, right? So in terms of like all the American presidents that we have had, I think Obama is like a solid B,
Yeah, I agree. I think
maybe
he's
B
like a
minus.
he's. I
And
think
then you
he's
go to
B
like
plus.
my ideal president, he's like a C.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. That's about where I'd put him for you too. If someone were to ask me like, how much does Greg Sperry like Obama, I'd be like, meh. Like,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
there, I guess. Sure. Yeah. Is there anybody else? No. Well. Yeah.
So Greg, who are like the thought leaders of the what did you say you defined yourself as? A democratic socialist? Who are the
Uh,
thought leaders of democratic socialism outside of Bernie right now? Just because I'm uninformed on the field.
right.
We just said Joshua
I'll,
for Congress. Keep it together, Scott.
yeah.
Jesus. Sorry.
I would probably give you some media figures. Like I really like listening to Secular Talk a lot. He's really good.
Okay.
He has some good
No,
takes.
not Kyle. I'm sorry.
Oh, are you not a
Continue.
Kyle fan?
No, I don't like Kyle. I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah. Secular Talk is really good. TYT ends up, are they the Young Turks?
Yeah, the
They
Young Turks.
they I
I
don't like
like
them as much.
I like the main dude. What the fuck is his name?
Shanky Gar.
Yup.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
guy's great.
Yeah,
I was
that
he was having
that
some
is
Twitter discussions the
really
other
bad.
day. I like that guy. Wait,
That is
really?
really abhorrent. Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
I
That
don't
guy-
know that much about him, so maybe I'm
Okay, so
just
he ran for public office in California, and then they dug up a bunch of stuff about how women shouldn't be allowed to drive and all the shit from his past because he was a very I think he was Sikh or Muslim, something very.
Well, Yeah, but for the record, I don't consider anything that a person's done like a year ago. Like,
Really?
this is definitely off topic. Yeah, I guess politics is a little bit different, but overall, in a general concept, like, this is very off topic. But I'm just gonna say it because I think it's a topic we'd all agree on. Cancel culture is like absolute AIDS, right? It's actually just awful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
it's
think
terrible.
digging up anything that's like over a year old is so fucking pointless. It's just so moot. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but you
It's
won't
like
vote for Biden because he's a rapist?
wait, I would. I wait. Wait, I would. That's my position. That's the position I'm
You would
defending.
vote for Biden
Even
even
if
if
yes,
the
yeah.
Sarah
Well,
Reid thing was true.
strictly because not strictly because, but definitely because I personally believe that Trump has probably raped people too, and probably raped more people. So I know you
But
disagree with me.
neither mattered.
Um.
It happened more than a year ago.
Well, that's a little bit different, right? Rape.
Or
I'm
like,
talking
where do you
about.
draw the line?
I'm sorry. Like, so I draw the line at like I don't know, like saying the N word or whatever, right? Like that's like pretty like whatever benign. Rape is like a little bit much. That's obviously like a very different
Obviously.
line. Yeah. So like I mean more of like what you say and not what you do. So if the guy said like women shouldn't be allowed to drive like 10 years ago, like what the fuck? Like it, it's literally like doesn't matter to me. It like never happened. It's just so
Okay.
long ago. It's like ancient history.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like 10 years ago.
That guy Cenk Uygur, he ran for public office and all this shit came out, and then he
Yeah.
ended up losing, and ever since then he's just been, back at the Young Turks.
Yeah, like so this something that's like pretty like how do I say like near and dear to my heart, I guess, is that like I think what you think a couple of years ago is pretty relevant because I would say now that like I don't know if I know I'm pretty sure Greg knows, but I'm dating someone. I've been dating her for 6 months. She's fucking great. Thanks, Jay. You're amazing. We just passed 6 months. She's trans, and I think like 3 or 4 years ago, I don't like I there's no way I could have ever seen myself with someone like that because of what I was taught growing up, right?
Okay,
So
but you're also like a developing young man. These are like
um
old politicians.
yeah, but I've even seen like older people like change their beliefs a lot. Uh, I have a lot of anecdotal reasons to believe what I believe, so it's just like it just doesn't make sense to me to dredge up things that someone said 5 to 10 years ago and use them for any reason, like to cancel the person or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I mean I agree with you. I just want to play the other side to see if we can suss out that opinion a little bit more.
Yeah. And we're like at the hour and a half mark, so or like hour and change mark. So I think we're gonna take a quick break and we'll be right back. And we're back. Um, so as we were talking about, we left off talking about, I guess like cancel culture, right? Overall. Um, so what do you think? Greg, you probably agree with me, right? Like I think taking anyone's past into consideration, like over a certain amount of years, like assuming it's not something crazy, is pretty irrelevant.
So I mean, I think that you can definitely like bring something up from their past and just be like, do you still support this? And if they say no, then you can maybe move on. But I don't think that we should drag people through the mud when something like medium bad, if you will, comes out from their past. But I do think that record matters, right? Like a big part of the reason why I'm not voting for Joe Biden is that his record is so
Yeah,
awful.
it's
Yes,
yeah,
it happened a long
absolutely.
time ago, but his
Yeah,
record is abysmal, and time doesn't change that.
yeah, that is true.
So so where do you guys fall on the whole Tara Reid, Trump's accusers, Kavanaugh, all this stuff?
I would beg in that all of it happened if I had to guess. Um, I don't know. Are you asking like?
Well, not so much. I don't need your opinion on whether or not you think it happened.
Yeah,
Rather,
yeah, yeah.
how it was handled in each of the three scenarios, how it should have been handled differently. Do you think that it was fair and just how it ended, say in the Kavanaugh situation or in the Trump situation, and do you think that in the future, when these
Yeah.
allegations get brought up, that there should be some process that everybody has to go through?
Yeah. I'm just gonna start because my opinion's gonna be pretty short and sweet. I honestly have done very little research into the Kavanaugh situation. Like, this is just a name that all of my information that I know is basically from like Twitter headlines and social media. I never did any individual research to any like claims that were brought up with him. My understanding is that he was a pretty shitty guy, but I just didn't do any like research. For Trump's accusation, there's obviously like that one clip or whatever of him saying "grab her by the pussy," which is like pretty. I honestly think that's like incriminating, and it might have been a joke, but it's like I think that type of rhetoric leads to things that are worse. So overall, as to how like the situation was handled, I think it was like I think it should have had an even bigger stage. Just like I think the Joe Biden story should have a bigger stage. I think that not enough press outlets are willing to cover the Joe Biden story. Maybe because there's not enough substance as there was with the Trump story. Maybe because there's a big conspiracy theory. Who knows? But I definitely think that issues like this with like our biggest political leaders should be brought to the forefront of talk, not pushed back like it seems the Joe Biden thing is being done.
So I definitely think that there's a bias in how it was reported because, besides like really far right media outlets, I mean every media outlet,
Yeah, certainly.
was talking about uh, the Kavanaugh situation, and there was never a question of if Christine Blasey Ford was to be believed or not. That wasn't a question, and I feel like that the media certainly has an establishment bias, and they don't like Trump. I'm the first to admit that the
Absolutely.
media
Of
the media
course.
establishment hates Trump, right?
Yeah, there's no way you
And
could argue otherwise.
and I really think that they're handling this situation with Tara Reid and Biden differently than they did the Kavanaugh situation. I think that in probably both cases, it is more likely than not that their accusers are correct.
Yeah.
Uh,
Really,
although,
even in the Blasey Ford scenario with all the like specifics you know now, or did you not follow it too heavily at the time?
let me know like what specifics you're talking about.
Well, just okay. So I'll just give kind of brief overview. Essentially, he gets accused, and this came up during his confirmation hearing in front of the Senate. So she comes forward and with her lawyers and accuses him of these things, and so they break the hearing and go into an investigation. That investigation lasted, I forget, was it 1 week or 2 weeks? The FBI did a formal investigation in which they concluded that they couldn't find anything. After that, I believe three. I'm not going to say that I'm right on this one. 3 days, but I could definitely be wrong. It could be more. It could be less. Before his actual confirmation, Democrats, or rather the senators, the Democratic senators, pushed to have more witnesses introduced after the formal FBI investigation. That did not end up happening. They did not allow the additional witnesses to speak in front of Congress, and Kavanaugh was approved and is now a Supreme Court justice. So there was a lot of uproar that due process was not served because these additional witnesses were not allowed, and obviously the conservative side is that, well, the FBI did a formal investigation and that bared no fruit, so you had your chance to have your witnesses. So both sides certainly has some good points, but I just wanted to hear from you guys who have differing opinions from me, and especially you, Greg, who have insanely different opinions than me. Like I didn't even know how far apart we were.
You guys
We're
are
so far apart that we
100%.
agree on some things. It's crazy.
Yeah, you guys are
Yeah,
100% like complete. Yeah, you guys are complete different oceans. You guys are oceans apart, where I'm probably more in the middle on different issues.
Yeah. So my understanding of the FBI investigation was that they didn't actually reach a conclusion.
Right.
Is that wrong?
Sorry, the conclusion that they reached was that they could not conclusively figure anything out.
Right. Okay. So another question that is, kind of tangentially related to this is that what do you think about how the Senate heralded Merrick Garland?
I hope that's a question for Scott. I can't answer that.
Oh,
so
okay.
I hope it's a good for Scott.
How do you think, or what do you think about how the Senate handled Merrick Garland?
What's that?
I think it's a person, right?
Yeah, the nominee that Obama appointed after, I think it was Scalia died.
Oh, after Justice Scalia died.
Yeah.
Catch me up on that. What was the controversy there?
So what happened is that Obama appointed Merrick Garland to the position, and
Mhm.
then the Senate just never scheduled a hearing. Mitch McConnell said, "No, we're never going to have a vote. We're not going to have a hearing, and we're not going to appoint a Supreme Court, or we're not going to confirm a Supreme Court justice in an election year, even though that's happened in the past." And recently, Merrick Garland was asked what would happen if uh, a Supreme Court member were to die now, and he laughed and then said we would fill the position.
Huh. So. Oh, okay. I see what happened. Okay, so right here I'm reading that he was nominated by Barack Obama.
Yep.
In 2016,
Mhm.
and then on January 3rd, 2017, that was when that was 293 days after, and his nomination expired, so it was no longer valid. And then Donald Trump nominated Neil Gorsuch, and who filled that court vacancy. Yeah, so it's just, I guess, what is that called, filibustering, where they just so Congress just held it up until it died. Yeah, that's disgusting.
They not only did they hold it up, Mitch McConnell just never put it on the Senate calendar.
Yeah, that's pretty gross.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that the action of Mitch McConnell was wrong. They're just the whole thing. Like I can't say that somebody not putting something on a calendar is bad, but the fact that was done and then it went unchecked, that's gross.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, this is a little bit off topic, but it's our first episode. I think you guys are definitely on opposite ends of the spectrum, like we said. So I was thinking we could go over some pretty key talking points that are widely discussed, and you guys could each give your brief opinion without contradicting the other opinion, just so that we have a basis for all other episodes. What do you guys think about that?
Okay.
You think that'd be good?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
So are there any talking points that you guys know that get brought up all the time? So I can start with a really obvious one, like abortion. Is this Scott? Are you? I'm pretty sure we all know where Greg stands at this point. If you've been listening this long, Scott, I assume you're pro life. What you'd call a pro life movement?
I hate talking about abortion because I was pro-choice up until 5 minutes ago, and now I'm pro-life, and I feel bad about it. But I think that is the morally responsible and morally correct thing to do. So at the moment, I'm sitting pro-life, but since I just recently became pro-life, I could always turn back pro-choice. It is something that I struggle with, and it does not carry a lot of weight when I vote for a candidate because of that.
100%. I'm actually very on board with you there. I have a lot of moral questions on abortion. My firm stance is that I think as a male, maybe this is a pretty extreme take, but as a male, I actually just don't think I could ever give a correct opinion on this. So my opinion is that I'm just gonna let people do whatever they want, even though I don't think that abortion it's morally unacceptable to me as well. But I would never take away that choice from other people. I think because I do think it would be a choice.
Right. So where I was forever was, I am a small government kind of guy. I would say that I'm more libertarian than authoritarian, and I'm definitely pretty conservative. So I was at a crossroads of I don't want the government to get into people's lives, so I think that abortion should be absolutely be legal. And then basically my opinion started to change, reading into constitutional arguments about it, reading about Roe v. Wade, just how poorly the law is put together. Because I don't know if you know about this, but Roe v. Wade actually gives a woman a right to abort a fetus based in the Fourth Amendment, your right to privacy, defining a fetus as property of the woman. So that's been heavily contested in the courts. And then I guess I think that there's a strong enough argument constitutionally that people have the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and that when you abort a fetus, that is getting in the way of that fetus's right to life, designated in the Constitution. And then I think that there's also a very strong moral argument for it, and so that's why I'd say that I'm pro-life now. But
Yeah.
but yeah, again, it's a
Yeah,
hard one.
it's
a gray
definitely a
area
hard
for
one.
me.
So what do you think, Greg? Is it pretty clear for you? Pretty clear cut?
I am pro-choice up to the second trimester because that's where we currently define fetal viability at.
Mhm.
Beyond that, it would have to be in situations of uh,
Bodily harm.
where where the mother's life is going to be at risk
Yeah.
if the baby is not aborted. But otherwise, in the
Okay.
third trimester, you've had more than enough time to make an educated decision at that point. I feel
Cool.
like.
Yeah, these all
I'd
seem
also like to say
pretty
that
good
I
so
also, in my pro-life policy, have the caveat that if the woman's life is at stake, then we're going to take the woman's life over the fetus.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Next big edgy topic, I guess that's talked about. Can someone give me a suggestion while I think of another one?
Gay marriage.
Cool. I don't think anyone opposes that here, right, Scott?
Oh
Oh
God.
God, Scott.
No. Listen.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, I don't think the government should have anything to do with marriage. I don't think the government should have anything to do with
Yep.
straight marriage or gay marriage. I think that marriage should be a religious thing. I don't think the government should be in the business for tax purposes. For tax purposes, I understand it, and for that reason, it should be legal for everybody. But if we start to infringe upon others' rights, like saying that churches have to perform gay marriages, and that's what happens when you give the government power. They will begin to encroach and do stuff like that. Little jab at Greg here. That's due to the progressives, and so for that reason, I don't think the government should be in the business of gay marriage or straight marriage. Morally, obviously, gay marriage is fine with me. And yeah, so I just don't think the government should be involved.
I actually have a little bit of an edgy take on that one.
Okay.
So I guess we can get to churches. I actually have the belief that churches should be forced to perform gay marriages because they're a tax exempt, how do I say, like entity. I think that when you take when you go under the guise of tax exemption, right? I think that you are like at that point. So like I think you are like I don't have a good way to put this. Craig, you know what I'm talking about? Like, I think you are responsible to do it.
What, like you have an obligation?
Yeah, I think you have an obligation because you're taking tax exempt status, but you're taking taxpayers' dollars, to perform gay marriage. I think if they weren't tax exempt, I would let them do whatever the fuck they want.
I mean, they're not taking taxpayer dollars though; they're just not paying.
Well, they are, right?
Yeah, those are the same thing, really.
Yeah, they are. I would argue that they're 100% the same thing. I think not paying taxes just means everyone else has to pay more taxes, so you are taking taxes.
I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't mean everybody has to pay more taxes.
It kind of does, right?
Do you think taxes would go down if we made church pay taxes? Like, no.
I mean, no, but
people are being deprived of the benefit of those tax dollars.
Correct.
Yes. While I understand that, I think that when you perform a church to perform a gay wedding, when you compel them to do that, you are acting immoral as the government. I hate government compulsion because I'm a libertarian conservative, but more so the First Amendment. It's directly in violation of the First Amendment, and this has been held up time and time again in the Supreme Court. So I don't think that there's much of an argument there. I'll just point to the jurisprudence.
So do you believe that? So I guess I should ask this question first. Do you believe that churches or religious institutions deserve tax exemption status?
I do, yeah. They provide a lot to communities. Churches and I hate religion. And I don't particularly like religious people, but I recognize that churches provide cheap or free dinners to homeless populations, and they do a lot of very good philanthropic work and do a lot of charity, and also it's a place to go when people are in a bad place and they need something to look up to. I don't believe in it, but if it helps you and it puts your mind at ease, and that's why we have churches and hospitals. Churches provide a lot of good to the community, and that is why I'm okay with justifying that they're tax-exempt organizations. And I used to not be like that. I used to be this big Richard Dawkins, freaking the God delusion type kid. But I guess Greg would put it as I kind of came to terms with the establishment on this one.
Okay.
So I don't think that we should compel, churches to do gay marriages. I mean, I think that's a really extreme position, personally. But I also think that when it comes to something like, the classic example of the baker being forced to bake the gay wedding cake, I think that the baker should be compelled to do that.
Wait, really? I would wait. I'd actually have the opposite position. So.
Really?
Yeah, I think they're a private business. It's kind of like the conversation we had yesterday, right? I think they're a private business. I think they can do whatever the fuck they want. Like, I think they're a private business in a capitalist society. Like, their point is to make money. Like, they don't have to serve any greater purpose or whatever the fuck. They could do whatever they want. That would be my position.
My counterpoint is, do you think that businesses should be able to refuse service for any reason, including race?
Yes. I do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yep.
Wow.
I'm a capitalist. I don't know what to tell you, man. I do. I mean, as shitty as it is, like, I don't know. Obviously, they'd be...
Actually, wait a second. I have to think about this for a second. No, I wouldn't get behind that. Because the reason that I'm okay with them refusing to bake a gay wedding cake is because to be compelled to do so would be, in their opinion, in defiance of their religion. So that's why I'm okay with that. But if you're just doing it on the basis of race, then we have non-discrimination.
Wait, but no. But I don't think that's a good standard though, because I could apply that same one to like I'm 100% sure that I could tell you like, well, this Islam baker doesn't want to bake a cake for a woman. Like, is he allowed to not bake a cake for a woman?
Yes.
I don't know any example off the top of my head, but I could tell you like this Nazi doesn't want to bake a cake for this black person, right? Like,
you don't have a right to be a Nazi.
I think that they would argue that they do. I think they would argue it's almost
you have a right
a
to be a Nazi, but
theology.
it's not enshrined in the Constitution. The same way that the right to because it's not freedom of speech to deny somebody service.
I literally, in my opinion, like this is like I think this is an all or nothing issue. I'm a very all or nothing guy, and I think that to have like. I know it's pretty extreme, and Greg's like discontent is growing by the second. I can feel it. I can feel it seeping through his fucking mind. He's like, this guy is red pilled. Holy shit! But I think they should be able to do whatever they want, like literally whatever they want, assuming it doesn't cause like violence to other groups like within our society. That's
how
how
companies dump chemicals into oceans.
No, because that would be violent against our society.
That'd be violent?
Yes, 100%.
That's not exactly violent.
Well, I think
what you're looking for is it'd be bad for public health.
No. I would consider it a violent act towards society, right? I think I could pretty easily. I don't know.
Okay, but you have to define it in like you have to define it with a legal standard. Violence would not.
So I would define violence like morally more than legally. So for example, I think that stealing something is an act of violence, right? Stealing. So if I stole Greg's pen, I think that would be an act of violence towards Greg. Obviously, it would be one at like a much less scale. And if instead of like I just punched him, right? Obviously, there's two different scales of violence, but I do think that it is some form of violence against that community to dump like toxic waste. Also, I could also just argue that it's violent towards the earth, but that's
you
like
think racism
weird.
Is violence?
Yes, I do. But I think racism is violent.
You gotta...
Wait, no. Listen. Wait, I think racism is violent, but I think that so my problem is that when you start like telling individual companies what to do, it feels really problematic to me, right? So that's why it's a very all or nothing position for me.
I understand what you're saying and that it feels problematic, but if you can't at the same time say this person is allowed to deny somebody the service based on their skin color, and then say companies can't do violent things, and then say denying somebody's right because of skin color is violent.
But it's not violent. That's what I'm saying.
It's just a non sequitur. I just asked you if racism is violent.
Yeah, racism is violent. I don't think denying service to someone because of so I understand what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
But I'm saying that like if someone had that extreme of a position because of a religion or because of what like a theological value that they held, like I don't think that like I understand what you're saying, and maybe
so it would have to be theology, in which case you wouldn't be all or nothing.
No, I guess I have to sleep on this one because I get what you're
Okay.
saying.
I'm not specifically trying to
Yeah.
disagree with you. I'm just trying to, again, play devil's advocate. That's how
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
to
no,
do it.
I know. I really like playing Devil Advocate too. I 100% understand what you're saying. I guess that's not one that I had given enough thought. But I do. It just feels like really arbitrary to draw the line anywhere that isn't all or nothing, right? So if I draw the line at for example, if I know this sounds really
If you
bad,
draw a line,
okay?
you'll always find like
Yes.
exemptions to the rule, but you can't let the like a special case define the rule. You don't let the exception define the law.
So what are you saying? Like race would be the exception because it's like
No. You don't let the exception define the law in that like find some freaking religion that doesn't like people who are white.
yeah.
You don't let the exception define the law.
I think I see
Wait,
what
but
Scott's saying here, and that you can define it somewhat
yeah.
logically you can refuse service because of your religion, but not because you just don't like somebody.
Yeah, and then if there is something that's like kind of like doesn't go with the law but makes sense, then it'll get held up in the courts. Hopefully the judicial system isn't destroyed.
I'm gonna be completely honest. I think that for me, I think you should probably have the right to deny service to literally anybody for any reason. It's
Okay.
possible that's too extreme a position, and I really have to think on that one because
Okay.
I don't know if I would draw the line at race. I certainly would draw the line before theological values. So, like that's saying that like if someone wanted to deny the gay couple like the cake, like it's a really tough one. Wait, I don't know how we exactly got here, but I actually don't know. I have to think on this more because you guys brought up some good points. So maybe I'm wrong. I'm gonna think.
Greg, is
I'm gonna
Ricky a
sleep on
dirty
that one.
capitalist?
I definitely am.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yup. Go capitalism. Absolutely. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I'm with you, Ricky. I'm
Wait.
with you.
So for the record, my problem with capitalism is that I think its highs are way too high and its lows are way too low. But I'm definitely more of a capitalist than I am a socialist. I just think if we like lowered the roof and raised the floor, like capitalism would be fantastic. Like I don't think that anyone.
Raising the roof and raising the floor.
You could probably. I think that lowering the or raising the floor. I think raising the floor is like the big concern, right? I think the roof probably has to be dealt with at some point because I don't think you can raise the floor without lowering the roof. That would be my argument. So I think if you don't start taxing,
That's what's happening now, right?
no,
Like
right?
the rich are definitely getting richer, but the
Yeah.
poor are definitely getting richer as well.
In America, not in the world, right?
Yes, in the world.
No,
Absolutely in the
I'm
world.
pretty
That's
sure.
what economic
I'm pretty sure in
globalization is
the average citizen of like China, Bangladesh, like these areas is like extremely poor. Like now more poor. Like on like obviously like how do I say
You mean
in an average? Yeah, in a national average, like a national aggregate, right? They're like way more poor than they were before.
I just don't think that's true.
There's no way.
Really? Yeah, it has to be,
Yeah.
right?
No, the economic development index has been rising every year since like I
Well,
want to say 20, 2009 maybe, and then like recently we just dropped back 6 years because of coronavirus. To back to
I
2014.
wanted to say that you were absolutely categorically incorrect, Ricky, but I just didn't know the statistics. So thank you, Greg, for being.
So maybe I should be more clear that I think that our standard of living is way too low. I think that's what should be raised. That's like, what was that?
No, so, I was gonna say that I definitely do agree with Ricky here in that I don't think that the lower classes are seeing nearly as much of the benefit as the higher classes are. If you look at like real wages in America versus corporate profits, real wages have been roughly the same and trending a little bit upwards, while corporate profits have just exploded.
Yeah, that's certainly true, but I don't think that there's any way away from that without implementing some policies that are just really bad for everybody except for the lower class.
Wait, so Scott, to answer your original, so to answer the thing you had told me, I think I just misworded myself. Maybe I didn't express myself clearly, but I do think you could probably raise the roof and raise the floor. and that would be fine. But I think the rate at which the floor is being raised is not nearly enough. Like it's not nearly
Yeah, I agree.
fast enough. I should
Okay, and
I think I was
I guess
incorrect
my
with the first
opinion,
thing I said.
in opposition to you two, would be that artificially doing shit that would raise the floor is just going to end up bad in the long run
It doesn't have
Why?
to be artificial though, right?
because it'll hurt the middle. You know, you raise the minimum wage from $10 to $15. The guy who's making $15 before isn't going to make $20 now. He's still making $15, and then the small businesses lay off all the workers, and then unemployment goes up. Like I'd rather control inflation than control unemployment.
So
What do you think about that, Greg? You think
Uh,
unemployment is more important than inflation? Just that's kind of off topic. I'm sorry, but
I do think that unemployment is something that we should care more about than inflation, because I think that, especially in America where we don't have a robust social safety net, unemployment can be truly rough for some people.
shoot, we're seeing it right now.
I would
Yeah,
very
definitely.
quickly, but I would argue. So my understanding is of all economic theory that I've read is that like you have to have some threshold of unemployment for like an economy to be robust, right? I just
You
think
have about a
that
5% natural rate of unemployment.
yeah, but I just think that you could lower like the standard of living enough that like being unemployed isn't like I think that everyone should have a house in the 21st century or like have a place of
Yep.
like to live, right? Like there just
I
shouldn't
agree.
be anyone homeless. Like this is not something we see in the more what I'd consider more developed parts of the world, right? Like we
There
just
should
don't see
absolutely be
homelessness.
homeless people.
Wait, really?
What do you mean? Yeah, you're not everybody is homeless for some innocent reason. Some people throw their lives away. Like,
Wait, they still shouldn't be homeless. I thought we just kill them. Why would wait? What? I think that's a
what do
pretty
you?
extreme
No,
position.
but I don't think
Yeah.
that we should be using taxpayer dollars to boost someone up who is doing nothing on their own.
We don't have to use middle and lower class. We don't have to use middle class taxpayer dollars. We can use high class. Hence, like
No, I
lowering the
don't think we should be
ceiling,
using anybody's taxpayer
right?
dollars. I didn't define where.
I just think
I
that
think
like
just because somebody has money doesn't mean that you're deserving of that money. I think that's actually morally evil.
oh, I agree, but I just think that like oh my god, I'm like flip flopping a lot here. I understand, okay? I understand I understand like one of my positions is like on one side of the spectrum and the other one is on the other side of the spectrum. But
You're like the Chad centrist where all your opinions are in like a circle
hell
around the
yeah,
middle,
hell
whereas
yeah,
like
boys.
convergent centrist is all the dots in the middle.
Yeah,
Definitely.
okay. It just feels ridiculous to me that we would ever like have a homelessness problem in like the 21st or the 21st century, right? Like it's just like a joke. Like the people just should be homeless. Like it actually just doesn't matter. Like what you're saying when you make the statement like some people should be homeless. It's like some people have like fucked up enough that like they realistically don't deserve to live anymore, right? Like because I would argue that being homeless is like on an
Well, they
equal
just
level
deserve
with
to
not
live.
having
They
with
deserve to live. They just don't deserve us
so
to prop
like
them
they
up.
don't deserve to eat or to have a place to sleep or any of these other
No,
things,
they
right?
absolutely deserve to have those. They
Wait,
don't have the right to have my money to do it.
but that's what I wait. So how else do we get them,
I'm
right?
not taking away their right by
Yeah.
not giving them something.
Um.
But you're effectively, I feel like it, like I think that if you are not willing to use taxpayer dollars to help people, I think that's the same thing as just letting them die.
I don't believe so. Because I believe we should put more of an emphasis into social constructs like charity. I think if charity was a more prevalent thing that more people gave to, we would live in like a way better society. And when you have a bunch of different charity organizations rather than just your national or your federal or state government or even local government, then you get more targeted and actually more helpful and more useful tools for these people who are uh, in a less fortunate situation.
So Scott, let me ask you, right? Because I think this problem that I highlighted, right, like this homelessness question, like, is a
Mhm.
problem that like I think UBI is like kind of attempting to solve that, right? That's like I assume you're like very against any form of universal basic income, right? That's like something you think that's super socialist
Yes,
level.
absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think I just disagree with you. I think that I agree. Like I understand what you're saying. Where like you shouldn't be taking taxpayer dollars, but like I just don't know where else we get the money, and like I care way more about like everyone having those basic.
Simplification of the argument, but yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry if I misphrased your argument, but I just think that everyone should have like a place to do those basic things. Like I think everyone should have like a place to shit, a place to eat, a place
Like
to
you think
sleep.
it's like a human right?
Yes, I 100% think it's like a human right.
Okay.
And
I agree.
I think that the deprivation of those rights is like absolutely evil. And even if you're taking like taxpayer dollars to do it, like I literally don't care where the money is coming
But you're
from
not
because it's a
depriving them of that. They're depriving themselves of that. Sometimes people fall on rough times, and obviously we should help those people. But if somebody throws something away that
so
they had,
I don't have
then what?
studies offhand, but I think I'm Greg might because he's smarter than me. But I'm 100% certain that there would be studies showing that like there's no way that the large amount of homeless people are like they did it to themselves scenarios, right?
I
Like
mean, it is a I I don't have the study in front of me either, but I know off the top of my head that it isn't a majority. It is a minority, but it's a large minority of homeless people who are on the streets because of mental illness and drug abuse, and or
wait, what?
Is,
So
is mental illness their fault?
yeah, wait,
no,
yeah.
mental illness is absolutely not their fault. But those are the people that like actually need help. I'm saying those are the people that need help.
Wait, so you think drug abusers need help too, right? Or
Yes,
wait, so who doesn't deserve help? The people who lose their jobs and don't have money? Wait, I'm confused.
the people who are the people who have the ability to work but don't.
But so we all agree that there should be a 5% unemployment rate, right?
There should
So
be what?
there should be a 5% unemployment rate for like an economy to be robust. That's just like an economic principle. That's like
Well, that's
mostly
the
agreed
national
upon.
rate of unemployment. I am for a federal jobs guarantee, though.
Oh no, go. The
Okay.
Soviet Union.
Oh
We've
shit.
learned
We
once
should probably
before. Work
wait.
camps don't
We
work.
should probably have an episode like literally just economics because
Yeah, yeah.
I
Let's
feel
do
like
it.
I might be more. Hopefully, I'm more versed in this than I was in politics. Um, yeah, I just think that yeah, without beating a dead horse anymore, those seem like pretty basic human rights to me. Yeah. Can we just do? I want to be like in a capitalist socialist society, okay, where there's definitely classes of people.
We're already
There's,
there, Rick. We're already
yeah,
there.
I would argue that we aren't because there's people on the streets, but to be
Ricky, you're
like
never
the,
gonna get rid of people on the streets.
you
It's
can
impossible.
though. Like South
Yeah,
Korea has
okay,
done it,
okay,
right?
yeah,
Like
you're
you
right. I'm
100%
sorry. Like
can.
like like Soviet Russia, where the people come off the
Yeah,
streets and
hell
go into the work
yeah.
camps.
I can. You hope those are gonna be titled "Comrades United." We're doing it.
Yes,
Okay.
0% unemployment rate. Inflation
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Wait, no, there. So, but I told you there can be a 5% employment rate. Like that. So I'm using that 5% because that's like the number I've understand to be like what's economically agreed upon. Is that like there
No, no,
has to
no.
be some
The
base
0%
level?
unemployment rate thing was a
Oh
shot
yeah,
at
yeah.
Greg
I
earlier,
got you.
saying
I got
he
Yeah.
you.
cares more about unemployment than inflation.
Yeah.
Right.
In that I might agree with you though, Scott. Where I do think there should be some people who are unemployed.
Yeah,
I just don't think there should be anyone
that's
who's
the
homeless.
economic episode question, though.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just don't
for
think there's
sure.
anyone should be homeless. Oh, we can have a moral episode too. Where is homelessness okay?
Yeah, we
I'm
just
gonna-
talked about the fucking trolley problem for 2 hours.
Oh, let's do it. No, let's wait. Have you guys seen? Let's end this. Okay, we've been on this podcast for a bit. This has been a good first episode. Let's end this with the shopping cart question. Have you guys seen this? Is this something that we?
No.
Oh, we're not well versed in the shopping cart question.
Oh wait,
Okay.
actually, I have
Yep.
seen this. I have seen the shopping.
So the shopping cart question goes, so you are walking back to your car, you unloaded all your groceries, you have a shopping cart. You have no moral obligation to put the shopping cart back, but would you put it back? This is like an inconsequential decision. Would you put the shopping cart back? And basically the argument is that the overall population would overwhelmingly, resoundingly say no. And this is like a very direct way to say that we shouldn't be able to govern ourselves because of the poor decisions we make. I don't know. That's like a very paraphrased way of saying the argument, but it's a really interesting thing. I think
Well,
everyone
yeah,
should
that's
everyone should
interesting.
look it up because it is. I'm sure there's YouTube videos about it, but it is probably one of the funniest fucking things. It's
There's
great.
a reason we live in a indirect democracy.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
boy.
I mean, all I have to say about that topic is like my first year at college was this year, right? And this girl and I went grocery shopping a lot. And one time I like went to return the shopping cart. She was like, "Why are you doing that?" And we didn't break up then, but we did eventually. But I think that was the moment when I really could have ended it. And then nothing of value would have been lost, if we're being honest.
That's pretty
Yeah,
funny.
where are we all on this? So Greg is obviously put the shopping cart back kind of guy, Ricky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably I'd probably put the shopping cart back. Like 99% of the time, probably.
I do as well. Yeah.
All
Cool.
right.
That means we're all functioning members of society. We did it, guys. Congratulations.
Good work.
That was the test.
In there.
We should ask everyone this question as like a mandate to be on our show. Like, would you
Yeah.
put the shopping cart back? No.
That and the
Sorry.
tripod. Yeah, just would you put the
Yeah.
shopping cart problem back,
Yeah.
and then you just hear, broom.
What about
Maybe
the
I'm gonna
trolley?
add that to my Tinder bio. Swipe left if you wouldn't put the shopping cart back.
Wait, what about the trolley question? Do you guys turning the trolley to kill one person?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
Hold
I
on.
am
Wow,
too.
we got
I
some moral
100% am
utilitarians in here.
too. Yeah,
Hell no.
absolutely. Yup.
Or
I would have a
absolutely for
yes.
life. 5 people
Oh,
are dead.
No, God,
okay.
no.
All right. Next episode is almost certainly moral relativism versus.
That's
moral
fine.
absolutism.
That's gonna be my best episode. The one
All
where I
about
know
it.
I
You guys
way
are
more about.
gone.
Oh
You guys
my
are
God,
gone.
not like this. Oh. All right, so this has been On Living Life. It's been a good show. Greg, where can we find you at one last time?
At Gregory_Sperry everywhere.
And
then
for me,
Scott?
it's going to be at Skeegan, Sceagan, or at, that's on Twitter, or at Scott Egan on, Scott.Egan, my God, on Instagram.
Cool. And for me, at is Ichiban. I'm going to be starting a Facebook page for this podcast soon as well. Actually, I already started it. Look at me. I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah. Anything else to say with you guys before we head off? It was a good first episode. Anything? Nope. We're good?
Nope.
Good to
Cool.
go?
All right. Tune in next time to see whether we should kill 5 people or just one person. Take care, guys. Have a good night.